Hello and welcome to the Presbyterian Women's Bible Study, coming to you from Black Mountain Presbyterian Church. This is the 8th in our lesson series on celebrating Sabbath, and today we're going to look at Sabbath and justice. Let's begin in prayer. Lord, we come to you today in thanks for all the blessings you've given us, especially the blessing of Sabbath rest and renewal. We confess that we have fallen short, turning away from some of the hard work you'd have us do. We ask that you help us as we study your word and seek your guidance to grow into the people you would have us to be. We ask in Christ's name, amen. Spring is here. You can tell because I tore up my hand trying to trim my raspberry bushes. I've been going through clothes, putting away winter sweaters, trying to get out spring things. And as you do, before I put them away, try to mend those little loose threads that have come up in the winter. I have some sweaters that have designs knitted into them. And I realized that if I pull on one of those threads in that design, I can unravel the whole garment. I think that that's kind of the way justice works with Sabbath. It's knitted into the fabric of Sabbath, and if you try and pull justice out, it kind of unravels the whole thing. So we're going to begin with our scripture reference. This time around, we're looking at the 58th chapter of Isaiah. But to be honest, we could look at a lot of scripture references, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to pull a lot out as we go along. So let's begin with this 58th chapter, and in it, God has commanded Isaiah to have a firm talking to with the people of Israel. Now, the people of Israel have been practicing their worship routines, and they're concerned. Why doesn't God seem to be hearing them? And Isaiah is going to give them the answer to that. I'm beginning by reading verses 1 through 5. Shout it aloud, do not hold back, raise your voice like a trumpet. Declare to the people their rebellion, and to the descendants of Jacob their sins. For day after day they seek me out. They seem eager to know my ways, as if they were a nation that has done what's right and has not forsaken the commands of God. They ask me for just decisions and seem eager for God to come near them. Why have they fasted, they say, and you've not seen it? Why have we humbled ourselves and you've not noticed? Yet on the day of your fasting, you do as you please. You exploit all your workers. The fasting ends in quarreling and strife, and in striking each other with wicked fists. You cannot fast as you do today and expect your voice to be heard on high. Is this the kind of fast I've chosen? Only a day for people to humble themselves? Is it only for bowing one's head like a reed and for lying in sackcloth and ashes? Is that what you call a fast? A day acceptable to the Lord? Can you hear these folks? Lord, we are fasting like crazy. We're laying in piles of ashes and sackcloth over us. Why don't you hear us? And Isaiah gives them God's answer. People, don't you know that Sabbath is not a performance piece? So, we've talked before about how this fourth commandment has a lot more words to it than some of the others. I mean, don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery. Pretty straightforward. And to be honest, similar commands and similar laws have existed across generations, across time. Likewise, there have been similar commands about having a day of rest and worship, again, across time and space. It's in Islam. Muslims go back to the story of creation the same as we do because we are spiritual descendants of Abraham. but it's also Baha'i faith, the Buddhists, Cherokee Native worship. There's a lot of faith traditions that include regular rest and worship. And then there are other traditions that don't include the worship aspect, but they include regular rest. The Chinese dynasties had that. Now, sometimes these rests depend on the phases of the moon. Sometimes it's regular days since the last rest time, but you get the idea. When we see the Ten Commandments written out, like in a plaque carved onto a stone monument, it's usually a truncated version. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, period, end of sentence. But what comes after that is really important because that's what differentiates our rest and worship tradition from all those other ones. They explain this is why we do this thing. So let's look at those words again. We'll start with Exodus in chapter 20, verses 10 and 11. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male or female servant, or your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. And then we go to Deuteronomy in that 5th chapter. These are verses 14 and 15. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son nor daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your ox, your donkey, nor any of your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns, so that your male and female servant may rest as you do. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. God's Sabbath is special because it is for the whole world. Everybody, without regard to gender, creed, race, economic status. And it's not just people. I mean, it's the animals. It's the land itself. They get a Sabbath. Sabbath is special because it's embedded in the experience of slavery and the exodus from Egypt, and God's reminding us of our delivery, God's redeeming grace. Sabbath is special because we are to extend God's mercy to all those around us, to God's entire world. The world is to enjoy the gift of Sabbath as we do. Practicing a form of worship that doesn't include extending Sabbath, it's a form of hypocrisy. Now, Walter Brueggemann says in his book, Sabbath as Resistance, Sabbath is not simply a day to rest. It's an occasion for reimagining life in God's world away from competition and coercion to compassionate solidarity. Jesus had a particular distaste for hypocrites, and he was sharply critical of those folks who misused the Sabbath, who used it as a performance piece instead of as a tool for justice. In Matthew chapter 15, verses 7 and 8, he says, "You hypocrites! Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you. These people honor me with their lips, but their heart's far from me." And in Matthew 23:23, he says, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give 1/10 of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you've neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former." In calling out this vital role of justice in Sabbath, Jesus echoed the voices of the prophets that came before him. Let's go back to that chapter 58 in Isaiah. And look at verses 6 and 7. Is not this the fasting that I've chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood? And when we talk about Sabbath, we usually talk about worship or rest from work. But the Bible's clear that even a worshipful, restful Sabbath without justice is hollow. Those Sabbath practices that Isaiah speaks of, loosing the chains of injustice, setting the oppressed free, feeding the hungry, and clothing and sheltering the poor, those are not once-a-week practices. It's clear that we're to live in a way that carries Sabbath back into days 1 through 6 of the week. I think Isaiah is saying that people who keep Sabbath live all 7 days differently. The prophets give us plenty of direction on how we're to live. In that very first chapter of Isaiah, we read, this is from the first chapter, verses 16 and 17, "Wash and make yourselves clean. Take your evil deeds out of my sight. Stop doing wrong. Learn to do right. Seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take up the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow." Now, the prophet Micah echoes that call for justice rather than empty worship and rituals. This is Micah 6, verses 6 through 8. "With what shall I come before the Lord and bow down before the exalted God? Shall I come to him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000 rivers of olive oil? Shall I offer my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God." And then there are the words from Amos that inspired those working for justice in our fairly recent past. This is from the 5th chapter of Amos. I despise your religious festivals. Your assemblies are a stench to me. Away with the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps. But let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. Again and again, that the prophets and Jesus call out the human cost of religious hypocrisy. This disconnect between what Christians say and what we do has a profound effect on the way we're seen by the rest of the world. And studies have shown that people, especially young people, tend to see Christians as hypocritical, judgmental, hateful towards people with whom they disagree. It's been said that the way we live is the first word we speak about faith. And it's clear that justice and Sabbath are so intertwined. Sabbath's not just a holy day, but a new social reality that's carried back into days 1 through 6. People who keep Sabbath live all 7 days differently. We could get bogged down in all this condemnation of hypocrisy and empty worship practices, but the prophets also give us a view of the world in which Sabbath is wrapped in justice. Isaiah's prophecy in chapter 58 closes with this vision of the world in which Sabbath is wrapped in justice. Then your light will break forth like dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you'll call, and the Lord will answer. You'll cry for help, and he will say, Here am I. If you do away with the yoke of oppression, with the pointing finger and malicious talk, and if you spend yourselves in behalf of the hungry and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in the darkness, and your night will become like noonday. The Lord will guide you always. He'll satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. This is a vision of what Martin Luther King called the beloved community. He wrote that this community, quote, is the love of God working in the lives of human beings. It's this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opposers into friends. It's this type of understanding goodwill that will transform the deep gloom of the old age into the exuberant gladness of the new age. Thanks be to God. Let's close in prayer. Forgive us, merciful God, for standing in the way of the beloved community. Teach us how to drink deeply from justice's spring every day of the week. May Sabbath and justice join hands in us so that all may participate in your flourishing future. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Thanks for being with me, and go in peace.